Just when you thought Gwyneth Paltrow could not become more iconic, the phrase, well, I lost half a day of skiing, has entered the lexicon as perhaps the most Gwyneth thing that has ever happened to Gwyneth. Of course, we're talking about the trial of the century, which lasted a glorious 2 weeks, better than any reality show you've ever watched, because it was all documented on Court TV. In case you missed it, I'll give you a brief rundown of what the trial was actually about, because some people thought Gwyneth was on trial for skiing, which it was slightly more complicated, although that was pretty much what she was on trial for. Back in February 2016, cast your mind back, Gwyneth Paltrow was vacationing with her family at the Deer Valley Resort in Park City, Utah. Terry Sanderson, a 76-year-old retired optimist. He was naturally an optometrist.
He's a retired optimist. He's all negative now.
Well,
that's a freudian slip.
It is. He's going to retire as optimist because he's fucking got his ass beaten in court. He was at the resort at the same time as Gwyneth, who was there with her family. And in 2019, he filed a lawsuit accusing her of having committed a ski and run. According to him, he was skiing on the beginner slope when he was hit from behind by Gwyneth. He claimed that he suffered various physical and mental injuries from the collision, like 4 broken ribs and brain trauma, and that he originally sought $3.1 million US in damages. But that was reduced to $300,000, so he was only allowed to sue for that much. And then she countersued instead of just settling to make it all go away. She said, I'm going to sue you back, Terry Anderson, you retired optimist, for $1, which is another iconic thing that Taylor Swift did when she was suing someone for physical sexual assault. Now, Gwyneth claimed that he was actually the one that crashed into her and that he was being opportunistic trying to sue her. Imagine that. Now, it all started when she walked into that court before she even uttered those iconic words about missing half a day of skiing. She walked into court wearing a cashmere cream turtleneck jumper and some Jeffrey Dahmer glasses. And Holly, I'm going to throw to you at this point and ask you what your highlights of the trial were.
But the highlight for me is that my mate Gwyneth, and for anyone who doesn't know, I am famous for, I think Jessie once put it, I'm obsessed with Gwyneth Paltrow, even though I don't necessarily like her very much. She is one of those celebrities. I will read everything about her. I'm just obsessed with her, even though I can see how deeply problematic she is in many ways. Highlights for me included just watching Gwyneth walk into that trial every day in a different outfit. She clearly realized that the cashmere roll neck and the Dahmer glasses were too memeable, and she toned it down a bit, but it didn't matter what she did. She was a walking meme for 8 days, no question. The thing that blows my mind is that my mate Gwyneth was watched by nearly 30 million people in that trial.
And I should say, well, I was going to say spoiler alert, but then I remembered it's not actually a show. It was actually a trial. She won. She was found not liable and she was awarded her symbolic $1. And of course, as she left, she put her hand on Terry Sanderson's shoulder and said, I wish you well, before leaving the court. Claire, what are your thoughts? Do you think this was good or bad for her brand?
Can I just say I am not religious nor am I overly patriotic, but God bless America. I love that they film courtrooms and allow us inside the machinations of court proceedings, because we don't do that here, and it's fascinating to watch. And so when you see Gwyneth wander in her outfits and you see her take to the actual stand, actual Gwyneth Paltrow is on the stand actually saying what she thought happened that day, and she's having to recreate the sound of Terry Sanderson running into her on the ski slopes.
I missed that. What was the sound? Recreate it now.
I can't do it. You have to listen to Gwyneth do it. But honestly, she was like, I thought I was being sexually assaulted.
Oh, yeah, that was
because he made some noises.
Grunting noises.
Grunting noises, which is obviously sexual assault is not funny. I'm not laughing at that. But just watching actual Gwyneth Paltrow like recreate these moments from the ski slopes, all while looking just impeccably put together. And the way that her face moved during these conversations too, like she just looked in charge, in control, absolutely sure of what happened that day.
But also
there was like
really
no one
bored.
second guessing her. Oh, yeah, 100% she was bored. She was like, oh, my God, this guy's obsessed with me. He won't leave this just be. He should never have been here in the first place. And so she was just like, guys, this is actually what happened on the ski slopes. And yes, she uttered that iconic phrase. Did it inconvenience her? Yes, it did. Well, I lost a half day of skiing, which is now the internet's way of talking about any minor inconvenience that has ever beset them. I love it.
The thing that I find amazing about this is I got to watch Gwyneth become even more iconic than she is. Obviously, she'd come off the back of a very bad week with her whole I don't eat food and I only eat and I consume all my calories through IV. And
see, this trial has made me forget all of that.
I know, but this is what's so weird. And I wonder, and I'd love to know what Mia thinks about the strategy here, because halfway through this trial, I was thinking, this is the worst idea in the world. Why the hell is she taking this to trial? Because it made her look ridiculous, privileged. It basically turned her into even more of a joke. And I thought it was going to be terrible for her. And I was like, Gwyneth's done. Goop's going to have to fold. But actually, by the end of it, the opposite was true. Lots of people were saying that they'd changed their mind about Gwyneth, that they loved it. They felt like she was kind of in on the joke almost, and that she was laughing with it. And it was something that they hadn't considered before. But surely, Mia, as a business person who has a massive empire that needs people to like Gwyneth or at least be interested in Gwyneth to want to buy her stuff, this was a big risk, right? A really big risk.
That's what I thought at first. And that's why I also, when we talked about it on the show last week, I felt even on the first day of the trial, I'm like, oh, she's telling the truth. Like she really is telling the truth, because if she wasn't and she was found to be demonstrably not telling the truth, he could have had a witness who was, they could have had someone who was going over on a chairlift and took a photo. Like something could have come out. And although I suppose she probably had to know what his evidence was before they were in court, but she was clearly telling the truth, because had she not been, the damage to her brand would have been catastrophic. As it was, searches for Goop are up something like 2,500%. Everything she was wearing is on sale on the website. She is an actor, remember? So she was not going to be easily rattled. She knew what she wanted to say and how she wanted to say it, which is something that I think if you're not an actor, you can sometimes come across in a way that you're not aware of. But acting, their whole point is that they're very aware of how they're coming across, and they do it very deliberately. She didn't shy away from her privilege or that. It seemed like she was having a bit of a laugh, a wink, like she said, well, I did lose half a day of skiing. But I don't know if she was being ironic or just trying to be truthful. And to be fair, the whole thing was farcical, because when he was asked about his injuries, he said, well, I haven't been allowed, I've been prevented from enjoying wine tasting to the same degree that I used to, because my sense of taste is affected by my head injury. So like it's
not funny,
thing,
but it's so funny.
Oh, it's hilarious. I mean, and it's hilarious because the stakes are so low.
And also, I think it would have been different if the person she'd have crashed into was, a worker on the minimum wage. You know what I mean? Like, I think that then the optics of the whole thing would have been different. The vibe of it would have been different. But the fact that it was quite clear that this wealthy retired ophthalmologist, whatever he was having a lend. He was trying to go for $3 million, and I think that probably also gave Gwyneth a little bit of sympathy.
Do we feel like we're being set up for a massive Specsavers ad here? Because the guy was a bloody optometrist and their whole deal about should have gone to Specsavers, like legitimately, I feel like I'm being set up in some massive, ridiculous promo right now.
Oh, like it was the world's most 100%. Elaborate SponCon.
Yes.